All right. Good morning. Good morning, Wayne.
Morning, Mike.
Still think that you need to go to HR to get that vacation request approved.
I already paid for the tickets.
Well, it's not my problem.
Sorry. Fire me again.
Can't help you. Can't help you. It'll be 15
You're gonna
times.
lose your pension too, then.
Yeah.
Can you have to move up a little bit and like a little more closer together? Actually.
Yeah, for the get to the mic.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Thanks, guys. All right. So we haven't done a show in a while with anybody from town hall.
No, it's been
Really
last
haven't.
time was you were off on your
You had Tina,
cruise,
right?
and Tina and Rich.
Okay.
That was the last time.
But geez, you're like a
Semi-regular.
you're a regular now, for Christ's sake.
Actually, that was right before the town meeting vote on the budget.
Oh, okay.
That was right before that. We came in to talk about the budget and pushing people to vote. And there you go.
So this morning we have a few people. Well, of course, you got Wayne, but we have Jim Barney, who's on I think every board.
Just about.
Downtown.
I don't know.
Every time I walk in to go to a
Yeah.
meeting, he's there.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
She likes the fanfare, but she's freaking late again. I mean, she gets later and later and later every week,
Morning.
every day.
Good.
And your coffee.
Morning, how's it going?
And she gets brought a coffee and
Nah.
pampered too. And
As it should be.
yeah, if I come in late, you know what I hear? Why you late?
Because it's your show.
Well, do you give him an answer?
No.
Okay.
It's your show. Not only that,
Can't
I would
hear her.
say,
She's not talking to the microphone. I can't hear her.
I would say since it's your show, you can be late all you want.
Yeah.
That's the way royalty feels too. They can walk in whenever they want. Everybody else is late or they're early. Right?
Jim, how many boards are you on, really?
In the town, probably, I don't know, 6 to 8, I guess.
Okay.
And then there's outside boards.
You mean like different like building authorities or something like that, or
Well, real estate investments. And
Yeah.
things,
and then we have Rich Grabowski, who last time I wasn't here when you were on, so good to see you.
Same here, Mike. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Well, it was him. I had nothing to do with it.
Program director.
Program director. But I'm glad you invited me. Welcome in. So the discussion today is kind of basically like what would it look like, with a different town government or a different government structure, and you chair. Well, first of all, let's start with Rich. We mentioned what Jim does. You're one of our selectmen in town.
Yes.
This is how many terms have you been? I mean,
As a
Just
selectman,
a
just the second time.
the second time. Okay, I didn't know if there was one previous to that.
No.
And you were also our town tax collector for 113 years. so anyway, you also chair a committee or a commission about government change, or what is it?
Well, basically, is I've had this thought in my head for quite a while that maybe we need to investigate other options.
Yep.
So, as part of when I was running for office as a selectman, I brought it up at a number of occasions and said, "This is something I would like to at least look into and investigate and put together some things and let the people decide whether they want to change or not." It's is there something better than the current board of selectmen makeup that's been there since the 1800s? Maybe not, but that's why I formed this small group. We got 5 members, and we started about a month ago, Jim.
Yeah.
And
We've had 2 meetings so far.
yeah, and so we're throwing ideas around. I put together some stuff here for all the members that I obtained through CCM and OPM and other sources. And so as a starting point, it kind of gives you an overview of all the different types of governments available to us and whether you want to make bits and pieces of each one. It's just, we're going through the process of, narrowing it down to maybe three choices or so. It's something to take to public hearing.
Okay.
and bring the people involved into it and see what kind of reaction we get one way or the other. That's my goal right now.
Now, is this an actual committee, or is
Yes,
this just
it's
just a bunch of guys getting together over
No.
coffee?
No, there's a lady involved too. There's four guys and a lady, and, but no, it just is a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen.
All right, so it is a subcommittee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Who else is on the board besides you two gentlemen?
We have Jamie O'Neill, and Jim, and Stu Norman, and Martin McKinney, and myself.
Gotcha. Is it a problem having two selectmen on the?
Well, I looked into that when Martin first approached me about being on the committee. I said, we got to find out. So I went to the town attorney, and the town attorney says, as long as the subject matter is what you're dealing with out here and you don't vary off anywhere, you're okay.
Because that's always been a thing. Like I remember even back in the school check days, like he wouldn't come in with another one of the selectmen because he'd be like, oh, it's quorum. We can't do that, because it's whatever. Sure. This personal phone call brought to you by Dean's Corner Diner. Oh, sorry. Should have went, hey, I'm doing a show.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to Rich for this epistle he put together. It's really been an eye opener for many of us, I think.
So the idea really is so right now we have a 3-member board of selectmen, right?
Right.
And the idea is to investigate, other options, like maybe a 5-person or a 7-person or a town council or
Yes.
or
Exactly.
whatever. So Kathy, I mean, you're also on the borough board.
Mhm.
I guess you're now like a
I'm just
kind of senior member almost.
No,
I don't know.
Not re- no,
No.
no. I'm on the board of Warden and Burgess's.
So you guys know you have 5.
We do
people.
for just our borough. We have 5 members. We have the warden and 4 Burgesses.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what do you think? Because you specifically, actually, being on the borough board in that government, what do you think that there, or what suggestions would be for the town of Griswold? I am stuttering all over the place today.
I mean, I haven't looked into it. I don't know what I would honestly suggest for the town itself. I have to say though that when I first started getting involved and saw that there were 3 selectmen and 5 members on the
borough,
board,
yeah.
right? I thought that was strange.
Yeah.
Like, why would the borough have 5 members and not the entire board of selectmen for the whole town of Griswold? So I just thought right off the bat that was a little odd.
Because you guys only have to police each of you 0.2 miles.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Outside,
Yeah, right. I mean,
everything's clear.
you just yell on your deck, and that's it.
What you got down there, Lori?
Yeah.
All clear. Somebody threw a nip bottle out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's great that they're looking into what the other options are, because there may be better options out there, especially as the town, things are evolved so much over the years, as we talk about all the time. I think the town needs to evolve, along with the times. And this may be one of those opportunities where we have to make some changes as they look into them.
Wayne, what do you think? I mean, we're going to go right down the way, because we all kind of have something to do with the town. Me not as much, but
So
yeah.
when we were all running, I was talking about the same thing, that we need to, and what I'm seeing here between Rich, Martin, and Tina is that they're delegating a lot more and spreading the wealth. And you could do that more with 5. Not to mention the selectmen, 2 of the selectmen could talk to each other about business without having a quorum and not having to worry about those rules. And you still have some communication between 2 of them anyway. Right. And you probably get more done and more oversight over the town issues and share some of the responsibilities.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, when you guys need to get together, you have to have a special meeting. And from what I see, you guys have a lot of them, because there's a lot to talk about.
Well, the special meetings usually have some kind of particular purpose or something that needs to be addressed ASAP type thing, So, especially if it gets into personnel issues, or you're negotiating with, especially up on 164 with loan. So you got to do it not behind closed doors, but privately till you got a resolution in one way, shape, or form. I pointed out to the committee early on, as when we first got started, that I don't know, whatever form of government you look through, there's pros and cons to everything. There's no perfect form of government.
Sure.
So we have to just weigh our options and see. In general, and the end result is what the people decide they want to do. They want no change. They want to stay in it, and that's the way it's going to be. Or if whatever we propose in the end, they like, we'll go forward. I'm trying to get in touch with Jim. I got a phone call into the town attorney, but he's on vacation this week, so I'll talk to him next week. Because then it depends on which form of government you roll in. You may get into needing a charter rather than state statutes type thing. So there's a lot of moving parts to it right now.
So back when, and I'm going to go back to school check, one of the things that he tried to do is expand the board from 3 to 5. And it was part of a referendum. There was something else on that referendum. There were 2 questions.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but this was one of them.
Yep.
And I remember I was all for it. But just figured, why not have 5 sets of ideas instead of 3, or whatever. So it failed. People shot it down.
Yep.
So we live in a town, I think it's obvious, that doesn't like change. It's either they don't like change, they don't want change, or they're just flat out apathetic and don't care. So, and I say that because you look at the voting numbers, you look at what kind of, how many people show up to meetings, and as well as watch them online, what the views are, it's minimal. So it's like there's a ton of work going in to this undertaking. Is it worth it?
Well, I'm the chairman of the Capital Improvement Committee. Okay, really, do we ever have anybody show up to give ideas or support or say no? The only people that show up are the people that are presenting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's kind of discouraging. And if you look at the Economic Development Commission, okay, rarely do we ever have anybody there. Wayne has showed up a few times recently, and a few months back we had a couple of ladies that were coming in, especially when they were talking about the short-term rentals. But I don't know whether it's apathy.
Well, I know that person, like one person in particular, was very, very concerned with the short-term rentals, because I think maybe she owned a short-term rental and would even jump into this show here and comment and stuff like that, and poof, they're gone. So it's like, if they have one thing that they want to talk about, and they don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
So
Well, some of the problems we have with some of the ordinances, short term being one of them, the noise ordinance is another one. From the town's perspective, not the boroughs, there's no enforcement. There's no way of enforcing it. If you talk to the state police, you're so far down the priority list, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
But that's reality. You gotta have a lot of good ideas. A lot of good things that would work and be beneficial. But how do you enforce it?
Yeah.
You can't ask a selectman or a fire marshal or anybody to run out into Patchogue Pond at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
Yep.
The ordinance committee has spent indefinite amounts of time on things that have gone absolutely no place. I mean, we probably talked about the noise ordinance, and I mean, it's been back recently, but we talked about that 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, I probably have a notebook this thick on it. That's just one of them. There's a whole lot of we put an awful lot of time into, and I finally just said to the board, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to spend any more time on ordinances that we don't have enforcement already in place for. What's the point?
Yeah.
Wayne?
No, I agree. That's the first thing short-term rental on, and after going through the short-term rental, now the noise ordinance, every time we get a request, it's like, well, can we enforce it? Because if we can't, why we just follow the state statute, whatever it says. That's what we did with the noise ordinance. Just follow the state statute and how it reads.
Can we enforce anything?
Depends on
You see what I mean? I mean, there's without a police force, what can we really do?
Well, I'd say things are enforceable, but there's a priority to those things that can be enforced. So in like the noise ordinance, like you said, that's going to be toward the bottom of the list. If there's, some other major crime happening somewhere else,
Yeah.
that will obviously take precedence. So,
Well, obviously.
right.
Yeah.
So it can be enforced, but I think it would only be enforced if there was literally nothing else going on and they were, the cops were just sitting there waiting for a call, which very rarely, if ever, happens. I mean, it's just there's a priority to things that are enforced.
But in a lot of ways, we're kind of a sleepy town.
Mm-hmm.
We're like go big or go home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like there's something big that happens, or
we're either that's all or nothing.
Yeah. What happened yesterday? Oh, murder. Oh, well, it's been quiet, so it's been coming.
I have a question going back to, you mentioned skull check when you tried to expand the board. Does anybody know why that failed? Do you guys have the history on that?
I don't recall it, to be honest with you. I don't recall it.
I think that'd be interesting to find out why it failed and to maybe address that in your subcommittee, or to see, was it just a lack of information that was sent out to the people? Were people concerned about costs associated with it? What the reasons were to it, and maybe try to look into that and address that.
That's an excellent point, Kathy. I mean, the last election, okay? I don't, I mean, I know when it is, so, but a lot of complaints I heard was there was very little notification.
That's crap. That's crap.
I think they meant notification coming from town hall.
Yeah.
There
from town hall?
Yeah.
Well, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They don't have a beacon. They don't have the bat light or anything like that.
From what I've heard, they've talked about Facebook, and I know Tina's tried to address it, and there have been some issues there. But I mean, I can say from the borough perspective, we post a lot. And that's where a lot of our residents get all of their information, and they know to go there to get information.
Was it on the town's website?
I don't know. I don't go to a website.
It was.
Yeah.
So it's crap. And
I don't.
No.
Disagree.
I'm going to tell you why it's crap. Because you know what? If you don't knock on somebody's door and go, "Hi, I'm Kathy from the town. I want you to know that there is a vote coming up," they don't care.
I'm going to respectfully disagree, because just with our experience with the borough page, people know to go there to get information.
Right.
And we have a website, but they know to go to the borough page to get information. Lori does a fantastic job keeping it up.
She does do a fantastic job. But still, what I'm saying is the information is out there. People do one thing and they scroll on Facebook and then they have this glaze over their face because they're just constantly scrolling. If it doesn't get, we talked about this ad nauseum.
I know.
Besides the town's website, we also have it posted at the Griswold Firehouse, the school, and the library.
Okay,
and the bank. Sometimes they'll post something from time to time.
Kind of useless.
Yeah,
I'm going to be
that's
honest
only
with
for
you.
people that drive by.
But I'm going to be honest with you.
People drive by it all the time, coming and going. Whether they pay attention or not, I'm sorry. I can't.
The firehouse. Are you talking about the
them.
Griswold Fire? Are you talking about
Yes.
the electronic signs?
Yes.
Well, that's okay.
And
that's what I'm talking about.
I drove by that
Well, you meant
yesterday.
inside the building.
Oh,
I'm
no,
like,
no.
Here's an 8x11 thing of the bank. Oh, guess what they're doing downtown tomorrow?
I noticed their sign the other day. I was driving by, and I forget. I don't even know what they had on there, but it was in red lettering, and you couldn't read it driving by it. It was very difficult to read as you were driving. So I don't know if they can change I don't know if it was the color or the spacing, or maybe it needs some updates to it. Yeah, the
that's
Griswold
a different,
Firehouse.
that's not
their
as clear
sign.
as the schools. It's something about the setup.
Well,
But I'm saying the
But
effort is there to get the word out as best you can. I mean,
I think they had
it used
signs
to
out,
be
vote.
years ago when I was a young fella in town. I mean, the Norwich Bulletin was everything.
Yeah.
Now nobody buys
Right.
Yeah, no.
it.
So
Well, I
what do
think
you do?
I think one of the problems is that at least some of the signs I've driven past, it's flashing sometimes too fast for you to really be able to observe it
While you're
and
driving,
and get the information.
Then you hit a light pole and
One of the other, when the
In
last
town.
vote that I worked, actually, a lot
Wayne
of the
got the joke.
feedback we got at one of the last, I was gonna say auction. Oh my God. One of the last, was the signs, that there were no like vote today signs or vote any, like just the generic vote signs that were placed all over Griswold. They said years ago they used to see those and they don't see those anymore. So I think that would be a big help. Just the generic ones, maybe
Yeah, I know what you're
with
saying.
like some of the Velcro where you could like stick like the date on it, or whatever. But they said, oh, we knew nothing. People that lived way out, like, on the edge of town,
The only
way
way you're
out,
gonna see us
there
is
was
the
no way
town
to
garage.
know.
If you post something at the town garage, that's about
That
it.
would help too. Yeah.
So
But
I
I
know
don't-
they used to do it out there. I don't know if they did in the Republican primary for Senate or whatever. But
Yeah, I don't
I don't know if they
know.
did this last one, but we
I
had
don't think so.
134 or 41 show up for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't a lot.
But the feedback for that particular vote was to have just those generic vote today signs or whatever, Griswold Town Hall,
Yeah.
and just, I mean, have
Yeah.
50 of them and just plaster them all over all the back roads, main roads, whatever, just to get people going, vote for what? What the heck's going on? And at least that'll bring them into the building, maybe,
Get
or
some
at least
kind
go
of
onto the
generic
website.
form, like vote today type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nothing with dates and
Right.
time, because
Well, I mean,
Well, you need to say if
some
it's a
of them,
primary because you get Democrats showing up at a Republican primary.
or
they
vice
can't vote.
versa.
We had
Yeah,
that
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
We
So
did
you gotta
have that
have a little
habit.
explanation what it's for.
But
But I think you do need to post a date on it, and I think Kathy, you mentioned Velcro.
Yeah, where you can change
where
the
you can just-
dates
You
or-
have the standard sign,
Mhm.
election coming, and then the date of the election. And I mean, it could be used, and you could even have another one that's had the Republican or the Democrat primary on it, so we could make them useful for the whole gamut of voting. And I think
Yeah.
that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, you can add those. You can add like the little toppers to them that you can take off and add on, and there are options. Of course, there's a cost associated with it, but I think after throwing a $50,000 line item for early voting, I would hope we could take some money and maybe reallocate it to these generic.
Where'd that number come from?
That's from the budget.
That was
There's
from the
they added
budget.
there's
$50,000.
$50,000
for early voting. That's on the it's in the budget.
Okay, I have to go look at that. It
Yeah.
seems like a large number.
It was a
because
lot.
because we pared it down significantly too.
Yeah, it was a lot. This last one, I think they said was almost $9,000.
$9,000.
just
Oh,
for
the
this
cost
last
of
one.
running it.
Right, yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
That budget's part of it.
And
Yeah,
how many votes did we have total during that period?
135, I believe.
100.
Oh, wait a minute. During just early voting,
Just the early vote.
I believe it was 34.
34 votes for a week of paying people to be there.
So it costs about $300 a vote.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. It was.
That's
That's
something I
absurd.
think that's something that's going to change over time too. I mean, this is just the
I
first
hope
go
so.
around. I mean, it makes sense if the word gets out and things, maybe 2-3 years down the road, you see more activity because people become aware of it more, educated more as to what it is. Like the November election is going to be 14 days.
Yeah.
So,
but the cost associated with it is
Yeah.
so high.
well, I've had that discussion with some of the registrars, and I says, there's 166 out of 169 towns that have part-time registrars.
Mhm.
I don't expect you to be there for the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
Not in this day and age where text message or a phone call away. If
Mhm.
there's a problem, you got a staff there. You don't need to be there and get paid for
Mhm.
all that time.
Yeah. But you have all
Because
the
the other
other.
towns, they're not going to. The state's not kicking in any money for it.
Now you got to
So-
love these unfunded state
Yeah.
mandates.
So I mean, okay, but I'm guessing next year go around, you're going to see an uproar up there in Hartford from all these 166 towns that are
Oh yeah.
saying, "Hey,
No,
Yeah,
the-
especially
the
small
cost-
towns.
yeah.
Bigger cities, I could maybe see it, but for the small towns that are on tight budgets, I could see it. Even Cindy said at the Republican
Register.
Register of Voters said that they're giving some feedback on the recent early voting for the primary,
Mhm.
and then the next national election is going to be 2 weeks early.
Mhm.
So when you see how that goes, but you know how things are when people put something out like it's a great idea, they're just going to say, "Oh, it worked out well. We're going to continue this." Da 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 da. And I'm thinking, maybe just a couple days. I don't think you need a whole week, especially for a primary like that.
Mhm.
You didn't
Or just
really
the
need
no
that,
excuse absentee ballot.
As
would
far as
fix it.
communicating, I don't know how much more you can do it by putting signs out, putting it on Facebook, social media. The show we talked about it all the time,
Mhm.
and
I share it as much as I can
Yeah,
on
you share
Facebook across all the pages that we have here in town. I try to share it.
I'll go back to this. When it was election time, y'all used social media like crazy, and it stopped.
Who did?
Well,
who
I don't know
used
how much
social?
of the
Wait a minute.
seniors use social media.
No. I'm talking about.
Who used social media
I'm
like crazy?
talking about the candidates.
Oh, the candidates. Okay,
Right, so it works. And now the social media has stopped.
for the candidates. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the town. There's not a lot of social media postings for the town.
tell
Well,
us
the
about
town-
rules.
Well,
I'm
I
not
know
talking
that-
about the borough. We're not talking about
No, I know.
Lori.
That's what
We're
I'm
talking
saying.
about.
No, I know, but I know the town had some issues with Facebook. Tina had talked to me about it, and so they're trying to. What she started doing is putting updates on the website, and then I saw Lori was taking that and posting it to our borough page, and then that could be then shared
Right.
around all the Facebook pages. So as a workaround, I know there have been some issues that they've had with the town Facebook
What's
page.
wrong with the Facebook page?
From what Tina said, for whatever reason, their account got shut down after
Start-
that very first. After
Start
that,
another one.
they
Yeah, it's an option. I'm
I think there's
personally
3 of
just,
them out there
I mean,
now.
I'm old fashioned, I guess,
So on I.
but I don't put a lot of into social media because I don't know who it's coming from. I don't know
Mhm.
what there could be somebody that doesn't even live in town. I don't know, so I'd rather have
well, the
something more direct.
No. I'm not talking about you personally posting like, "Hey, it's a great day on the lake," and no, I'm talking about
The town.
like the
the
town.
town's only
posting,
one way communication.
Yeah.
We use the town's website.
And I'm good with that because I know where to find stuff. But I think the problem is that we're looking at is people don't.
No,
They-
the
they-
websites are becoming pretty.
We've been talking about this
obsolete.
for a decade. You know, you have people that walk around and they'll say, "I didn't know," and really the bottom line is because they didn't look.
Mhm. Because
really
a
what it-
website you have to go physically
exactly.
go to it.
But even Facebook too.
Yeah, and it depends on how you have your Facebook set up. But yeah,
Right, but honestly, if you don't see it in your Facebook feed, if you posted something on the town's Facebook, it's probably going to go to about 10%.
you can also
5
sign
to
up.
10% of the people that follow that page.
Even on the town website, I just get frustrated and I say the hell with it. I mean, I spend 2 or 3 minutes looking for it and I don't find it.
Yeah,
I'm done. and that just
I can't
that's a
have
turn
That's
off.
typical.
That's
That's
a
very typical.
and that's a turn off to even
Mhm.
where you keep saying look at the website. It's a turn off. Why are we going to keep going back there if we can't find stuff?
and that's not just specific to Griswold.
No.
I've gone to other town websites looking for things, and I think they're all like that. I don't know why, but yeah, I think in today's day and age, I mean, websites. I can tell you, the younger generation coming up, websites are almost obsolete because they can find all the information they need on social media, or that they expect to find on social media, and that's where they go. And there's different platforms, there's different ways of using it, and a website's good if you can find the information that you're looking for.
This is why newspapers are pretty much defunct.
Oh, yeah.
So talking about social media,
Can I just make one more
Go
point
ahead.
about that?
Sure.
There's something like it's not print. It's also radio.
hmm
I don't know if you're familiar with News Radio 88, WCBS. They're done.
Yeah.
57 years. They shut it off yesterday. They're doing like all sports now because that's what people are listening to, sports and different kinds of talking or whatever. Well, and I just want to. It's just things are changing, and are we changing enough with the trends? That's my question. All right, wait. I'm sorry.
that's all right.
I just wanted to mention that we're talking about the shift in things. So.
Shifting things. Nobody really wants to talk about what's really going to affect their lives. They just want to talk about sports and soap operas and whatever they
Sure.
want to talk
And
about.
whose dog is lost. And,
Yeah.
But anyway,
Big boom, man.
talking about social media, if you guys considered, because I got a text from one of your board members, Jamie. She's great at social media. If you didn't know that, she was my manager.
I've known Jamie for a long time.
Yeah, so she was wondering if you guys were gonna think about throwing out there on social media to get people's thoughts about where they think we should go
That's
as a
an
town.
option. Then we have discussed it thoroughly.
And she would be the person that could help you with that. Tell you that right now.
I would say, and to even further that, you can put a poll out on social media, but you can post a poll to your website also to try to get those people as well, and getting feedback.
You'd
and
also then have to
information.
put on social media a link,
That there's a
pushing
poll,
people
right.
to your website.
So they
There's a whole
know.
dynamic to it.
Mhm.
But
Is there who manages the website at Town Hall?
My guess
Is
would
it
be
Lisa?
Lisa, yeah,
Okay, all right.
the selectman secretary.
Okay, all right.
so going back to the conversation about going from the board of selectmen from 3 to 5, Cortland Kinney made a comment, which he's right. I remember now about why it failed, and he said it failed because the other question was reducing the selectmen's pay to roughly $3,000. people voted to reduce cost instead of increasing the board to 5.
Okay.
So a lot of that was,
So cost.
yeah, and I remember that now. He's
Which
he's
makes
100%
sense.
So they were
right.
doing
That's
a give
exactly
and
what
take.
I
It
would
says if you
expect.
give us, board of 5, we're going to reduce the salary.
Well,
So
no, they
it won't
reduced.
They
did reduce the
They did
salaries
reduce
at
it,
that
didn't
point,
increase
right?
it.
What's
Is
that?
that the time that they reduced all the
I
salaries?
think they
Yes.
reduced. I
No,
think,
that was the second question because
Okay.
remember I was saying,
Gotcha.
and this is why Mike Cattell didn't run again.
So instead of reducing all the salaries and then adding 2 more, they just opted to reduce the salaries and not add the 2 more.
I think the salary at that time was 10 grand for the.
It was more than that.
for the second and third.
It was like 12.
Oh,
12
okay.
change.
All right.
Yeah.
So I was, and the we spend what $40 million a year in this town, expenses. Okay, and we're worrying about $3,000 to add a selectman or 2 selectmen.
Well, let's
to
talk
the
about
board.
just the voting thing. We're spending 50 grand this year
Yeah,
on
it's asinine.
but we're not
That's
worried
just the-
about
yeah, the
throwing
line
another
item for the whole
selectman
thing.
or 2 on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's
I mean,
that's a mandate, unfortunately.
It's the same old thing.
I know it's a
Penny-wise,
mandate, but
Dollar foolish.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I think just food for thought, when you guys get to a point where you're ready to propose all of this to residents and all of that, I would suggest having a PowerPoint presentation, sharing it to everybody, having each option that you guys have looked into, pros of each option, cons of each option, and what your recommendation maybe is or something like that. But have it in a PowerPoint, have it very clear, very simple bullet points, and that's it. And just and that's worked. We've done that a few times for the borough when we've had big things like this, and we've just shared a PowerPoint and we've put it on our Facebook page and on our website for people to refer to. And I think it helped a lot kind of get the residents to focus on what's at hand.
Well, there's part of that package right there. There's a whole thing of the different forms of government and the pros and cons to each one.
Perfect. Yep.
And we're not, at least for the first public hearing, I intended to print those out and hand them out to whoever comes.
Mhm.
And they have something they can look at, and it gives you the makeup of that particular system. And on the backside, it gives you the pros and cons of, as it works. You know?
Good.
So
I mean,
that would be my first step anyway.
Yep.
I think we were all tasked at the last meeting to come in with a brief summary of what we thought was an appropriate form of government to
Yeah.
have in town.
And not just an appropriate form of government for what we have going on now, but what could be
Yes.
happening 10, 20 years from now, that sort of thing too, and planning for the future as well.
Cindy says about as far as signage. She goes, now that you mentioned it, there are a lot less vote today signs.
Yeah, that was the feedback.
Those
we
are
had
the last
gotten.
few votes. Yeah. And speaking of Jamie O'Neill, Eden, Jamie says, social media has become the first place people look for information because it tends to be the most or have the most.
Well, and it's real time. You post
Did I
something
cut
on a
that out?
website.
The most recent up-to-date information. So I cut off half of her comment. Sorry, Jamie.
So yeah, because you post something on a website, the next day it could be old news, just like a newspaper. You post something on Facebook or I mean, if you want to look at other social medias, you post something. If there's an update, you can post it immediately, and it's out there. It's there.
Yeah.
A website, it doesn't have real time information. It's always dated information that's on a website.
All right.
Go ahead.
So you guys want to just briefly go over what kind of forms of government you're looking at and a little bit about pros and cons or any of that?
Well, I don't have it in front of me here,
Well,
but
here it is.
the one thing that well, obviously the current what do I have here? The what's I going to say?
While you're looking for that, I want to go ahead and court. Kenny has another comment that I want to drop in here. I'm going back and forth between our different. See, we do the show on many social media platforms. So, like this one is on our page, Griswold News and Notes, And Court Kinney says the early voting is forced upon the towns like the ZC, the Connecticut Busway, paid for by every state college tuition as an extra fee. Just like the Eversource public benefits charge, we have no voice.
Yep.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
that Eversource thing is horse shit.
Now the charging station's on top of it.
Yeah, this is good.
Anyway, all right, let's start with the ones that we're looking at here. The original is selectmen, town meeting, mayor, council, council manager. And they have also the it has been brought up too, the RTM, which is representative town meeting form of government, and
What is that?
it's not that I totally understand it, but it's you take and you dissect the town into small districts, and those districts elect someone to form the committee to run the see.
That'd be weird.
Well, that would be a hard sell,
Yeah.
I think.
I had that form.
You get Pleasant View.
I had that form of government back in Massachusetts when I was a youngster, and I was going to run for one of the town meeting positions. Okay, there was about 100 of them in that town, and what really distracted me was, at one point there was a vote on a $6 million school budget, and I'm talking 65 years ago. Okay, so that was a lot of money then.
Mm-hmm.
And they spent 1 minute discussing that, and then they spent an hour, and I stood out in my mind so much. They spent an hour talking about $1,000 line items for the police radios.
Mm-hmm.
I got up, walked out, and I never ever went back. I can't tolerate that kind of
I know Rich was on an RTM at one point, so he may be able to give you some insight on how. Okay,
about that, yeah.
I was like, 'cause I know he's been on an RTM before, and it's different.
And the other thing I observed was that many of the town meeting representatives were employees of the in the public. Okay, so that there was a strong bias towards certain things.
Wayne, you must have something to say.
Very convoluted. I don't think that'll sell. Like I'm with Rich. I think it'll be very
With the RTM?
the RTM will be very difficult to sell.
Well, you'd have to do like what you do with everything else: explain briefly what it is, and then the pros and cons. Like you,
Most people are
mentioned
familiar
earlier.
with the selectman or the mayor or town council type of thing. So
I mean, do you think that anything will ever change, or do you think it's just going to be the same as it ever was?
I think things have to change. If they don't change now, they're going to have to change. They have to. I mean, things are changing.
Okay.
People don't like change, but they have to change.
Certain things, it comes slower. I don't know if it's unique to Griswold or just rural towns in New England or whatever. Things don't change quickly. So my goal from the beginning to when I first broached this subject is I was looking for a way to find a more consistent form of leadership in the town. In other words, we're changing boards of selectmen every 2 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that and the conversion from one to the other takes up a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we find a more even flow?
Consistent.
That's
consistent,
my
yeah.
motivation here to begin with. There's something to be said for expanding on the existing 3 members to 5 or 7. There's also the town manager, city council type thing, and yes, it is things to look at and discuss and try to educate the people as to what the pros and cons are, and hopefully that we can come up with something that'd be beneficial.
So let me. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you bring up a good point with the turnover. Every 2 years, you potentially have 3 new people in there every 2 years, and I can only imagine. You get new people in there. It's going to take a good 6 months to a year to really get a good handle on how everything works, working with CCOG or NECOG or whatever else, is involved in all of that. And then at that 1 year mark.
Or harmony, but just between the boards.
Right, exactly. And then at that 1 year, now you're already looking at, starting campaigning again. You're, dealing with all of that. And you could potentially then have another 3 people. And a year from then, there's no continuity.
One thing that I did bring up, Jen might remember, one of our early meetings is that at the bare minimum, I would stress that we go to 4-year terms, not 2-year for the selectmen. go to
I
4
was
year
just going to
terms.
say that. Actually.
If you go to a 5 or a 7 member board, initially you would have to break it up, 4 year terms and 2 year terms until the 2 year terms become 4 year terms. There's a process to get to it. But I think that would be beneficial. If nothing else, if they want to stay with a 3-member board of selectmen, at least go to 4 years.
Could you stagger them?
You'd have to.
Right,
You'd
stagger
have
them,
to.
right?
Just like the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed.
Exactly. So there's always
Exactly.
Rec board
constant.
too. The rec
So there's
board's like
always
that as well.
Yeah.
right. So even when somebody does change, there's still other people on there
Right.
that have.
There's a little
Right,
bit
right.
more
I think that's-
continuity.
Yep. No, I think that's great.
Well, I'm strongly in favor of increasing the size of it because it brings different ideas, and new ideas. Okay, and instead of having only 3 people generating ideas, you got 5 or 6 or 7. And I think we're ready for it. To be honest
We get
with you.
ideas all the time, Jim. All over.
Sure you do.
I'm sure you do. Probably not well thought out.
Victoria says we went to 4-year terms. That's in Sterling. The only thing is if you get a bad member, you're stuck with them for 4 years.
Like I said,
But
there's an upside and downside
Yeah,
to
of course,
everything.
That's
everything.
national politics too. So
But you can do a recall.
If you have somebody willing to, I think in a town like this where everything's so apathetic, I don't think you would have anyone actually put the effort into doing that.
what do you mean to like get somebody out of office?
Yeah.
You can't do it. You can't do it in Griswold. There's not enough people. You
Well-
have to have almost over 25,000 people.
I thought it was a percentage. No, okay.
No, we
That
looked
seems
at
kind of
that.
odd because I would think there'd have to be some kind of means for towns under 25,000. There's got to be some.
There is
other
not.
way.
Look it up. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Because we can talk about this
Interesting.
afterwards.
So it's
But
almost like discriminating against small towns.
yeah, but you can't.
Okay.
You can't.
Interesting.
If you want to get a first selectman out, you can't do it
Hmm.
unless you're in a larger town.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it depends on town size.
Hmm.
So, 'cause
Well,
that-
maybe there's a state statute that it should be changed or implemented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be some means
Good luck with
in
that one.
those cases. I know.
So here's a question. Plainfield has a board of 3, just like we do here. They are thriving when it comes to economic development. So let's say things happen up on 164, and out of Tina's, out of her mouth to God's ears, there is interest there, and people are calling. Is this even an issue anymore? If 164 really starts to develop, like we've talked, we said it's going to be like
Expected, yeah.
dominoes.
Yeah.
Do people even care if there's a five-member board? Do they really only care about the finances, our taxes? I don't think they give a shit, to be honest with you, on how many people. I mean, I think it's a great idea to go to 5 or even 7. But I think the general on my own soapbox is if there was a better economic situation here in town, I don't think people would even think about it.
I think that's where the educating of the residents comes into play and pushing the information out there. That's where you have to show them how it will impact economic development negatively, positively, or whatever. You have to show them that, and you've got to get that information.
I just look at the historically low voting numbers that we have in this
Yep.
town.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, if we're doing the same thing over and over again, right?
Mhm.
That's the definition of crazy.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
expecting different results. Yeah.
exactly, but we don't. And the same things happen over and over again. We throw our hands up like, why?
I just thought of something. You know how the Heritage River folks have been coming and giving their information.
Yep.
Could the town do that just for maybe quarterly updates? Like, hey, let's have just an information. Have obviously the agenda would whatever. Like, here's the latest on what's going on 164. Here's the latest on what's going on I don't know, Wirewind, or I don't know, whatever. Here just updates. That, and just quarterly have an hour once a quarter where you have an information session. Doesn't have to be any voting or anything like that, but just kind of an info to help get information out there. That can be streamed and shared and all of that. Is that possible? Is that allowed?
Anything's possible. Yeah, we have open forum at all our meetings. So we can answer questions if people want to.
Yeah.
And it's we're not shut down. We're open book as far as that's concerned. They can stop me on the street and I'll give them the best answer I can. But not to say that what you're saying is not good. But I mean, we do make ourselves available and at regular meetings.
Got one
But the
tonight,
same
right?
thing, the apathy comes in. You get, I can,
I'm a little harsh talking about it, but
I
it's
mean,
true.
You see the same, basically the same people at all of these selectmen's meetings. The same handful of people come all the time.
Thank God for Dave View holding up his iPad. Time.
2 minutes.
If I'm
2 minutes.
if I'm correct, at public forum, you can only raise issues about what's on the agenda. So that's not really a good.
No. No, that's not in the selectmen's. The open portion of the open forums at the end of the meeting. You can bring out anything you want.
Okay, well, I don't.
Some other committees might. I think the Board of Finance is like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the one I was reading because that's
Yeah,
what I
the
got.
Board of
that.
Board of
Select-
Finance is like that.
Okay, and public wetlands and P&Z, they no longer even have a public forum.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't have to.
Right.
It's not required. If you want to have a forum, you can have a forum, but it's not required to have one. We looked into that.
Yeah.
I think what I'm envisioning is something a little less formal, a little more inviting, a little more friendly, a little more just because Board of
Let's just have the Board of
meetings-
Selectmen meetings at the massage parlor.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, you go to the Board of Selectmen meetings, and this may sound silly to those of us who are involved and stuff, but they can be extremely intimidating to just your average resident, especially somebody
Yes.
that wants to get up and talk and say something. They're not going to just because they're so intimidated by the formality of what's going on.
I was definitely like that.
But if you notice, like at these Heritage River, they're asking questions. It's more of just like an open discussion forum rather than such a formal, I just feel like if it was made to be a little more friendly and open and more conversational,
Kind of like town
Rather
hall meetings or
than-
whatever it was.
I think you would. But
Kathy wants a charcuterie board. Every meeting.
You see some of that with some of the candidates. They'd be standing there and people would be asking them a question, come up to a mic and ask them a question, and they try to answer it.
Well,
I-
it just
it's very
goes back.
true.
It just goes back to you're saying you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. I mean, it's just a different idea, another way of thinking of it from a resident's perspective. And I've heard people say, "Oh, I would never go to one of those things." I was, I'm not doing that. I'm not.
When I
talking
first
at one of
started
those."
going to Board of Selectmen meetings and stuff, when I first started doing this, I was scared to death.
Yeah,
And I'm usually not scared to
It's
death to talk. But
intimidating.
I was.
And
it
there
can be
is a
very intimidating.
there is another problem with some boards, and I'm thinking specifically of the ordinance board, because we go over the same stuff ad infinitum. Why does anybody want to show up there
Right, yeah.
and you hear the same thing this month that you heard last month that you
Right,
saw
right,
and heard
right.
last year?
Oh, same thing with EDC. It's the same agenda over and over and over again. And then, so why do people want to show up and listen to it?
But I think we're making some changes here. I think Rich is incorporating some good changes here. We're
Yeah.
moving a lot faster.
Mhm.
And then
You're
Wayne
making-
and I-
I'm just
You're coming up with ideas, but the real change, isn't it, if it goes to a referendum?
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
So there's really no change until that happens.
Like you can say that for anything.
yeah, right.
You know,
Right.
anything and everything.
Exactly.
But
But
I
I think that now that you brought that up, I think maybe if we do, no, we're not, if we will have a public hearing, I would move it to the senior center. Maybe people will be less intimidated going to the senior center than they are going to the town hall. I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I'd be willing to try it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked about intimidation. I don't think anybody sitting here is intimidated, but
No.
we're not maybe, from this perspective, we're not part of the general body.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying, think of your average Joe Blow, 30-year-old, mom and dad with a kid, whatever, that maybe they do have a
30-year-old these
concern.
days, they're still living it with mom and
Right,
dad.
I mean, that's possible too. But they could have, maybe they do have some sort of concern or something, but they're like, oh, I'm not going there with all those people that have been, on these boards for 20, 30 years, and I'm not going to talk in front of them. No way. And it's such a formal setting. Just to, think of it from a resident's point of view. And
Yeah.
I think the only way you're going to see change with anything is you have to somehow connect with the residents in some way, shape, or form. That's the only way you're going to see change with anything.
And you mentioned people being on these boards for 10, 20, or 30 years. I'm an absolute believer in term limitations, okay? We get stale. And I mean, I don't know what the term limits should be, but the problem is trying to get somebody to replace us to step up and do the
Right.
job.
That was
But
one of the-
you need to connect with the
That's
residents.
one of the questions
to do that.
going to board of 5, board of 7. You got to get enough people to run.
Yeah.
To fill those slots, right? Because of the, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for.
Apathy.
Well, apathy or the lack of, involvement, of residents. And listen, I worked till last November and I didn't really have any time, and I would show up and vote. I would know when to vote and I'd show up to vote and whatever. But, and when I started going to the meetings, not long ago, you do feel that intimidation because you don't know what everything's been talked about, the background and everything.
Or what you're
So,
allowed to say,
what
what
you're allowed to say and things like that. So
No, you're spot on with that.
but the only way we can, I think Kathy brings up a good point. At least try to start out with a comfortable environment. And maybe people show up and they can ask questions about what's going on with wire and cable, what's going on with wire wine.
You just have an open forum. What questions do you have? Anything and
Right.
everything. Open it up.
I want to go back and address your comment about whether we can get enough people to run. Okay. I was going to run for Board of Selectmen probably about 10 years ago. And I guess I was going to be unopposed at that point. Then Steve Merchant entered the race. And I have all kinds of respect for Steve. I thought he was a fabulous Board of Finance director, as I think Scott is also. And he's a regular townie. I'm a relatively new person in Connecticut. And I said to myself, I says, here's a guy that everybody knows. Who knows me? I'd have to spend 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, going around knocking on doors to get even noticed. Okay?
Really? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. And it just that at that point with my family, it wasn't worth it to do that. Okay. But if we open up more slots, then more people may be willing to put the extra effort in to run.
So crazy thought. And again, just trying to think outside the box. You guys are probably going to want to just throw me out the window after this.
No,
But you know
I wanna
how
hear
you
your thoughts.
you know how you mentioned, unless you go to door knock and hi, today's your news, but
Yeah.
maybe that's what it's going to take to start getting residents involved. Maybe it will take a group, get a subcommittee together, get a group of people and start door knocking, not campaigning, door knocking for things like this. Hey, we have this going on. Do you know this is happening? Do you know there's a meeting coming up? Hit sections of Griswold. And maybe that, hey, do you know we have a website? Do you know you can sign up for email alerts? Do you know, those types of things. It may take door knocking to get it kind of rolling, get the ball rolling with residents.
If you don't get shot. And I'm not being sarcastic because that has happened.
Well, I mean, it
Not here,
happens.
but-
I think you're more likely to get bit by a dog or something like that. But still, I mean, obviously, you do it for campaigning, but just something along those lines. I know it's a crazy thought, and I know it would be extremely time consuming, and nobody likes
There's
door
even
knocking.
more crazy Daryl
But
from the Healthy Computer, School Street, Jewett City,
yeah,
next to the former Jewett City Massage Parlor,
and dog groomer. Yep.
and Todd Grimmer, who's doing wonderful up on East Main Street, by the way.
Good.
He goes, hire the solar guys. They are door knocking anyway.
Perfect, right? Exactly. See, now you think outside the box. There you go.
Very
Use
good
the
job.
resources you already have.
Well,
I didn't know
if you
when I
look
was
at
going
the,
door to door, if
No.
there was a dog barking, they didn't see me.
Mhm.
So-
I don't blame you.
Kept
Yeah.
right on going.
This one, he almost rocketed to the moon one day when there was a cat in the bushes that moved, and I've never
Scary.
seen him jump so high in my
it
life.
was quiet. It got up to the door. All of a sudden, this thing took out of their bushes. I jumped like 5 feet in the air.
And I started laughing,
But-
and then we knocked on the door.
Was you raised in the city?
No.
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 Okay. Did you
No,
ever go
but
walking in the woods as a
No,
kid?
but when you've been walking all day knocking on doors, you're not really thinking about anything hiding in the bushes.
That was
you know.
funny.
But she brings up a point, man. Look at how many people came out to vote a year ago for the
Mhm.
municipal voting, because a lot of it was because they were out knocking. I
We
was
were-
out
we were
knocking, and
all-
people were all knew about it.
Mhm.
So pretty much.
I'm going to stick with the apathy comment.
I-
And I'll
That
tell you
too.
why. Because people only care about what they care about. Look at how many people filled the Griswold High School, or excuse me, the middle school. No, where's the high school? Well, one of the auditoriums. No, it was the high school auditorium about their guns.
And how'd they
Oh,
get
yeah.
that? How'd they get that information out there?
It was
A little bit of everything.
It was an
A lot of social media. Go ahead, Reg.
brought to town meeting.
Mm.
I know I was sitting there, me and Jared, and
Yeah.
it was. I think that was a misunderstanding thing, but just the sheer number of people are out. There was no sense even trying to talk, because we mirrored the state statutes, but they were absolutely positively anti.
But the
So
point
I said, okay, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
It goes away.
But you got those
it's
people
still a
there.
state statute.
But the people were there. How did the people know about that issue and know that?
I still think they know there are town meetings. It's easy to say I didn't know, and it's easy to
When
say
they wanna
I'm
know,
not
they'll
going. And the reason why is because they don't want to sound like an idiot, like they don't care when they don't care.
Right.
I think
But
there was 4 or 5 people who really were hot on that.
Well, and that's
And-
what I'm saying. I bet you they were out there talking.
And they led that whole march.
Mhm.
Okay, and then most of them probably lived up near the forest where it was going to be most impactful to them, which
Mhm.
goes back to Mike's comment.
Mhm.
They're only interested in what they're interested in.
Mhm. But in this case, what you guys are working on will impact all of Griswold.
Yeah.
And so it may. I don't think the door knocking as crazy and as,
Oh, I don't think it's crazy at all.
I really think that's probably how you're going to get a lot of people is if you go out there and be like, hey, this is happening. Have a little flyer. Here you go.
We have
Direct
case
them
in,
to the website. And
point sitting in this room.
Mhm.
Who the hell knew who Wayne Malin was?
And who does
Nobody.
want to know who he
Yeah.
is?
Yeah.
You see my point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know because I was part
Everybody
of it.
knows
I know, it
Wayne
was-
now.
And it was let me tell you, it was a lot of work. It was so much work, and it was
Yeah.
so many hours and so
But
much
you know what
planning.
it was? It was consistency.
Right.
It's like Wayne comes on here consistently.
Mhm.
Ugh, no. No, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
people are used to him now.
Yeah.
You too. You know?
Well, they know I'm here late. That's my consistent.
But you know what? People remember that.
but it's that face to face, and it's a lot of effort, and I think that would probably help in this situation, and really trying to just to push the information, just to get the information out there. Obviously, not trying to sway anybody, but just present information.
Rich
and-
is.
Oh yeah,
doing
he's
it
like,
right
oh
now.
hell no,
What
he's like,
saying
I'm
is
not
that,
door knocking,
we
and I don't blame you.
have a lot of wonderful ideas. Finding the people to do it is a horse of another color.
Yeah, it's always the same people, like you said.
And, so it's, yes, it'd be a wonderful idea to go out there and spend the weekends knocking on everybody's door. But who's going to do it?
Yeah, I think your idea is a great idea, but
Oh, I
I mean,
know.
I look at the 5 of us that are on this committee. I'm not going to go out there and knock on doors to sell the idea. I'll straight up honest with you.
No, I trust me, I get it. That's why I said you guys are probably going to want to throw me through the window when I say it. But you may need to, like when you have a campaign, you kind of have like your little campaign committee. You may need to kind of get people working with your subcommittee that are willing to do that.
Yep.
Try to get some younger folks. You have families in town. Try to get some of the younger, late teens, early 20s, kids going out there. You know what I mean? It's you
I know
try
what
to
you
get
mean.
them
I just-
involved. I know it's easier said than done. I get it. Trust
Well,
me, I get it. But
But the thing is, are the young people really at all interested? I mean, you got 2 or 3 at home, I think.
mhm.
I've got one who's somewhat interested in a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, my
but-
son is very much interested in it. He's been involved and helped us with several things.
Okay, but see,
so it does
that's
happen. but-
that's
It's 1
right.
out of 10, 1 out of 20.
Yeah,
right, but that's because I'm involved,
Yes.
and because and he sees us talking and hears us, talking about the
right.
thing. So, and,
Do you think
but
if
you
Rich
gotta
wasn't
get
involved in
started.
the fire department, that your daughter would be involved in the fire department?
No,
There
probably
you go.
not. No, not at all. But that's where the face to face comes comes from. You know, I mean, I bet you if Lou went knocking door to door, he'd probably find a few people that would be willing to join. Not saying he needs to do that.
No, my
but-
point is people trust who they trust.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and they
that too,
mimic,
of
especially
course.
kids. You know, they're gonna if they trust you, they're gonna mimic what you do.
Right.
I did it from watching you.
Mm-hmm. If something like this, if I had my son, hey, dude, you want to go door knocking for a couple? First, he'd be like, well, how much you paying me? That would be his first question.
Yeah, that's Nick you're talking
yeah,
about.
that'd be Nick. But I mean, I could probably get him say, look, here's a couple things. This is what I want you to say. You go door to door. He'd have a neighborhood done in an hour.
Yeah.
And he'd be off doing his other stuff. I mean, it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of energy. But when you're doing something like this that could impact the town for the next 20 plus years,
Yeah.
there are some other things that it's just going to take a lot to get this information out there. To get
Well, we're
people
not in a
interested
rush.
in it.
You know, I shouldn't say that because I like to get it done before the November 25 election. Obviously, if you want to
Right.
expand the board or however you want to do it, you need to have it done by
Next year.
well before that. You
It would
know,
be
I
on
guess
that ballot, right?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
exactly.
saying?
You still got to go to public town meeting, then
Oh
you
yeah,
referendum.
oh yeah. There's a lot to go yet, but
But you're still researching everything too. I mean, you're
All right,
still
well-
looking into it. Right?
Going back to Kathy's comment, I mean, there's the three main types that you already went over.
Yep.
You know, maybe we should prepare a sheet, Rich, that has the sub points, the 3 or 4. Yeah, I know you have it.
Get that information
but-
out there
What's
instead
that-
of leaving
what's
it
that
in the flip
top
book.
page?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Every one of those has that
yeah.
advantages and disadvantages.
I'm
of
trying to
each
get it all
form.
on one page if we
Mhm.
could.
Oh, you could do that.
You know,
Well, then
Or front and
I
back.
could do it for you.
Oh.
No, I could do it for you. It would be
Well-
very readable.
yeah.
Not a problem.
As long as people don't freak, because sometimes if there's too much on a page, they get
No.
overwhelmed, and that's the
No,
end of
there's
it.
there's a way to do it where you could.
Well, that's what I said.
separate
As
it.
long
Yeah.
as
Oh,
you
yeah.
can do that,
Just
so.
bullet points.
Yeah.
So I think we can go 7 ways to Sunday on this subject. We can go forever on it,
Mhm.
you know. But I think it's just starting out. But I think it's putting the town's putting their best foot forward,
Mhm.
and trying to at least look at these things and say, hey, look, is there a better way?
Mhm.
So
And thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
Because I've
yeah,
been wondering
honestly.
that since I was on the board
I was-
for the Burgesses. I'm like, why do we have 5 and they have 3? This makes no sense.
yeah,
So I'm glad you guys are at least looking into it.
But I think
and
Court Kenny
researching all
is
of it.
exactly right. It was, one of the things was because they were more concerned with the cost of the selectmen, instead
Mm-hmm.
of, and I think now would get a totally different answer.
Well, and it depends on how it's presented.
Well, then the one discussion that we've had, and it all depends on whether it's a first selectman or a town manager or whatever, and how they delegate responsibilities to the other selectmen or council members. Some people want to do it all themselves, as we've had in the past,
Mhm.
and now you have somebody who's willing to, distribute responsibility.
Yeah, as it
So
should
that's
be.
the difference.
Yeah, you gotta look at-
Yeah,
I
that's
agree with you
why
100%,
that's why
but-
there's a second
like
and the
you said,
third
if
You got to look at
selectman.
union.
Oh, yeah.
If you look
yeah.
at, you elect somebody for 4 years and
Yeah,
there's
you're
somebody who's got to control everything, well, then you're
Mhm.
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah.
So
You're hopeful.
And they'll
that
get
you're-
burned out.
Exactly.
So in this case, say for example, you were to go to a board of 5, would there be job descriptions for each of them? Would there be something that
Well, I
what
would-
would be the checks and balances to make sure that somebody's not becoming a dictator? In that case, what would be the checks and balances for that?
I honestly don't know. I think that it would be up to whoever the first selectman or town manager is to delegate. I've had this same ideas. I like to have similar to the borough. You have somebody with public utilities, somebody with a fire department, somebody with public works, somebody
Yeah.
with finance. You know what I mean? You delegate an
liaison.
area, but the key to that being successful is that those people have to be known that they're not going in a supervisory position. They're strictly a liaison
Mhm.
from that activity to the board.
Mhm.
That's the key to being successful. If somebody goes in there and I'm in charge now of the fire department. You're going to do this.
Right,
you're
right.
gonna do that. That's not going to wash.
Well, that's what I'm wondering when you have someone in a first selectman position that could potentially, like we've kind of seen it, where they're
Oh, yeah.
that's it, And I think if you're going to
To
be,
put something in there.
there's got to be some sort of checks and balances to make sure that try to prevent that as much as possible.
I hate to get to be too technical. You have to find a way to be some kind of generic thing where you say, okay, the selectmen need to be able to take on responsibilities in various areas as part of their responsibilities. Something like that.
Yep.
Something like that.
We're gonna have to end
ahead,
this because, like I said, we can just keep going on for days on this.
Yeah.
I think
So we
that-
got
I think the major thing is you need to have a good manager. My philosophy in working 35 years for Raytheon, and I'm sure Wayne can say it, most problems start with management because we don't deal.
Yeah, it starts at the top, and they're the ones that kind of the way they operate and work is what filters down to everyone else underneath them, reporting to them. Yeah, I agree.
again. This is something that we could go on forever and ever and ever. And but I think the bottom line is information's got to get out there. The second thing is it's going to end up at a town meeting and a referendum, and let's just go forward with it. So, Wayne, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing in Rich today. Jim, thank you for coming in. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank you
having
guys
us.
for doing this because I know it's not
Jim.
easy getting people together and
Yeah.
talking about different ideas. So thank you guys for doing
And Kathy,
this.
thanks for being on time. No.
That's what I'm here for.
Has to get it in, huh?
Hey,
Yeah,
there was a
they-
weather statement saying severe fog, so I wanted to make sure I was
yeah, yeah.
careful
Okay. All right.
driving here this morning.
I got you.
All the way.
Yeah, I believe me. I
All the
know.
way. from
We go the same
Maple-
distance pretty much. So,
Yeah.
I'm
All
a lot
right.
further away than you are.
no show tomorrow. I'm not sure about Thursday, but you know what? It's funny is that we're talking about getting word out there and stuff like that, and being consistent. Well, we do this silly show on Thursdays called Psychic Thursday, right? Where we have two ladies come in and we flip tarot cards and it is up to between 3,000 and 4,000 plays a week now. You know why? Because it's consistent and people expect it, and they know. So, but we don't know because school's starting and they're putting the grandkids on the bus.
Yeah,
So.
school
Yeah, I'm
starts
going over to
Thursday.
my granddaughter's house too that
forgot
morning,
about
but that's like 7:30, so I'll be here.
All right.
Doing something.